Now, in the words of Andrew Hallam, a guy I've seen you mentioning a couple times tonight, do you realize you've all won the ovarian lottery? Have you ever been driving down the CTE and seen one of those trucks full of day laborers and sitting in plastic chairs surviving some thunderstorm, only to bring home a couple bucks a day and wondered, why are they there and I'm here? My own kids have inherited this lifestyle, and I can only hope that they continue to take advantage of it. Have you? Will you? Question number 11, what kind of parent will you be? Will self-esteem for your kid be earned or given? I believe there's only one way to truly earn self-esteem. You have to stink at something. You then have to practice. You have to still stink, maybe a little less. And then some way in the far-off future, you will get something and feel good about yourself. That's it. That's the formula. Everything else is artificial. Be very careful about the people in your lives who have removed obstacles or who will continue to remove obstacles, because almost undeniably, artificial self-esteem will turn out to be temporary self-esteem. Next, number 12, how do you look at obstacles? In his book, The Last Lecture, Professor Randy Pausch argued that the brick walls are there for a reason. The brick walls are not there to keep us out. The brick walls are there to give us a chance to show how badly we want something. The brick walls are there to stop the other people, the ones who don't want it badly enough. So when you can't do something, when you fail the first time, will you give up and go in a new direction? Or will you follow the words of the famed philosopher poet Chumbawamba, who said, I get knocked down, then I get up again. No, they're never going to keep me down. I get knocked down, then I get up again. They'll never keep me down. Now, okay, here's a story I wasn't actually sure I was going to go to tonight, but after that whole Formspring experience, it seems like we've entered into a season of sharing. Plus, I remember my MO as a teacher. For most of you know that basically if I can ever find a possible teachable moment with one of my failures or foibles, I won't hesitate to go to the land of the overshare. So consider this your last Burnett random tangent. A few months back after interim, a group of juniors were sitting around a cafeteria table and they're writing down their own personal bucket lists. They called me over and asked me if there was anything I ever wanted to accomplish as a high school student I'd yet to accomplish. And I told them no, actually. By the time I was 30, I accomplished all those goals, and everything since has been gravy. Sure, I have some superficial ones. Hey, let's see if I can do X number of push-ups, or hit Y number of home runs in my geriatric softball league, or possibly visit Country Z so I could check it off of my Facebook Where Have I Been list. It's not exactly Gandhi-esque aspirations. And then later that afternoon, I played the SAS boys in a softball game, and I had a pathetic performance, and I was talking myself with some interesting vernacular. And Mr. Norris came up to me and said, is that really why you're here? Is that why you come out? And I must not have been paying attention closely enough, because the fate decided to step up and kick me in the buttocks. And a few innings later, I was running out to outfield, and my back seized up and I fell to the ground. It turned out that I had a herniated disc. Well, it also turned out, in what many other doctors would later call an incidental finding, that I also have this lovely little spinal tumor that currently sits about 2 millimeters away from my spinal cord. Now, it was lovely at the time, and before I let your mind wander in an odd direction, I'm totally fine. I did all the tests, and it's not the big C. But I found this out, and I actually found out that I'm able this summer to have spinal surgery to get rid of this little annoyance in my life. But compared to the truly scary stuff that my colleagues and members of the SAS community have dealt with this year, it really is just a little road bump. But during this process, I learned something about myself that brings me to question number 13. When obstacles hit, will you let them be all-consuming, or will you practice selective denial? When I was in high school, my default reaction was hyperfixation on the negative, to the point where I could not function. Whether it was my parents' divorce or the fact that the puberty gods had yet to share their wondrous gifts, I paralyzed myself by fixating on the negative. I basically wasted my high school years. Flash forward back to this March. When this whole tumor thing hit, I initially reverted back to my default reaction. I wasn't exactly enthused. I remember telling Nittmeyer about it in the office copy room, and our secretary Margaret walked in to what must have looked like a very unconventional state for two teachers to be in. For those of you who've seen me watch Crash or any sports film involving a dad, you know what that looks like. From that first day, I spent almost every single moment of my life changing my daily routine so that thing would not grow 2 millimeters. I was not going to get opened up, and it drove me crazy. In fact, I had a little bit of trouble sleeping. But then at a faculty meeting one day, I looked around at my colleagues, and I realized that everyone has something they're dealing with. It could be physical, emotional, or some demon from the past. And everyone has their own, and this is where it sounds quite cheesy, everyone has their own metaphoric tumors in which they're dealing with. And you youngins, my young Padawans, you'll all get yours. No, you're not going to get a tumor. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying you'll all have something at some point that'll paralyze your progress. Right now, I know some of you have an ex-boyfriend you can't seem to get over, or a family situation you can't control, or a freak accident which all threatens to take you off course. But I challenge you to truly consider the effectiveness of the all-consuming method of dealing with a problem versus the path of selective denial where you don't forget about the issue, you just can move forward. I finally again chose selective denial and chose to unclick the pause button of my life, but I lost that month and I can never get it back. So I really want you to choose selective denial when possible. And this brings me to my final question, number 14. This is it. What are you going to do when you walk out that door? And this will kind of set up the next 30, 40 years of your life. Who will you go to first? Will you go to your friends or will you find your parents? One of the greatest honors bestowed on a parent is what I saw last year. Wyatt Guggersberg introduced his father on the same stage. And Mark got to hear something that so few of us parents will ever hear from our children. None of you will ever have this venue to publicly declare your appreciation for the ones who helped put you here tonight. But you owe it to your parents to find some way in the coming months to recognize them. Recognize them for all those years when your fevers, your sniffles, your broken appendages scare the caca out of them. Recognize them for those lovely adolescent years where you felt the need to showcase your blossoming argumentative skills as your bodies vacillated between a dozen different hormone-induced mood swings. And recognize them for greeting you to the airport after an interim trip when every night they went to sleep worried for your safety. And recognize them for the fact that while you get to head off to a dorm filled with activity and newness, they'll remain behind in the painful silence which will now fill their hallways. Oh, don't get me wrong, there's many parents who can't wait to get you out the door. But even those who've earned a break, even these few who've counted the days till you leave, even they will have moments when their heart feels a bit empty. So you must recognize them. And lastly, for you graduates, I challenge you one last time to find and trust your iron string. For it will be these people, these ones who have figured out their wiring. It will be they who will survive and flourish when the realities of life inevitably pop up and get in the way of the best laid plans. So thank you again for this incredible honor, and I wish you all a lifetime of long, uninterrupted, sleep-filled nights. Thank you.